Welcome to another episode of the Burg Podcast, where we talk about all things Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I'm your host, Alicia Williams. Also known as the Hub City, or just the Burg, Hattiesburg is a bustling town in southern Mississippi. It's an educational, cultural, business, and medical hub for the region, and we're pleased to share stories from our community. On today's episode of the Burg Podcast, we have two interviews about businesses run by independent and talented women of Hattiesburg. We'll also have two audio essays. In our first interview, Justin Suarez interviews a former county sheriff turned owner of a local ice cream store and how it has impacted the Latino community in Hattiesburg.
I'm Justin for the Burg Podcast. Today, I will be interviewing Esmeralda Gonzalez, who is the owner of Lupita's Ice Cream y Mas. She used to be a former deputy at a sheriff's department, but today she's now serving ice cream at her new small business and is actually the owner as well. Her store also highlights the Latino community and shows a different side of Hattiesburg in terms of that community. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
So, what did you like about working as a deputy?
I like that it was a different experience, so you deal with a lot of different stuff. We wore a lot of different hats. The days weren't the same. It wasn't like a set schedule, and I like helping people, so there's that.
So what was the average day as a deputy like for you?
So I would work 12-hour shifts, and basically whoever needed help, I would go and assist. Sometimes we'll get, one call since it's for the county, but I would cover 500 square feet. Or sometimes there was a lot of calls and like the weekends are usually busy. But it was good. It was a good job.
I gotcha. So what made you decide to leave though?
So I left because, I love my job, but the money wasn't there, of course. So I just wanted to see the community in a different point of view. So I saw the community in their worst days possible, but now I see the community where I'm serving them ice cream and I see happy faces now, and the experience of families coming in here and seeing that bond kind of brings a different light to the life that I was used to seeing on a daily basis.
So what was the process of opening this store like?
So the process was, I took over about a year, I believe. It was a lot of paperwork, a lot of hard work, a lot of money, of course. But it was definitely worth it. Hopefully, I stay busy for a long time and I'm here in Hattiesburg for a long time with this business.
So what does this ice cream shop mean to you?
So it actually means a lot because most of the concepts I do get them from inspired Mexican shops in actual Mexico. So it's just bringing a little bit of my culture into the American culture and into Hattiesburg, which is growing, which I think we need to expand to more cultures. That way people see different cultures and see how a person's living or see how they're used to, basically I sell snacks too. So it's like the snacks that I eat, maybe you will like them. So that way we can kind of inform each other on cultures and make new connections.
Do you think that the Latino community is underrepresented here in Hattiesburg?
Yes, I do believe that it's growing. We are slowly getting more Latino businesses, which is good. But I'm happy that Hattiesburg is such a big place and it's very welcoming. They're not very shut down, don't want to try it, but people are trying us, which is a really good thing.
So from being a deputy to a business owner, was there anything from being a deputy that sticks with you as a manager here in Lupita's?
Oh, definitely. Being a deputy, I learned how to work under stress, which being here business owner, sometimes it does get stressful, but not the same stress as a deputy, which kind of helps me work with the business stress of paperwork, which doesn't compare anything to life or death stress. But I do see how I talk to people and stuff like that. I'm more, open and able to talk to the person more than how I used to when I wasn't a deputy. So I learned a lot from that career.
So is there any reasonings why you hand make your ice cream here?
Yes. So I hand make the ice cream because I like to know what I put in the ingredients. So when I go to a place, I like to know what ingredients is used or what exactly I'm eating. If I can't read it, I'm kind of like, that's a lot of chemicals in it. So I'd rather keep it short and simple. That way I can explain to my customer what I'm actually putting into it, and it's more simple and I can explain better.
So speaking of your ice cream, can you tell me a little bit about the process of making your homemade ice cream? Like, what does that entail?
Yes. So my ice cream ranges from like 5 to 6 ingredients on each batch. Once I make the batch from scratch, I have to let it sit in the fridge for 6 to 12 hours before I actually put it in the ice cream machine. Once I put it in the ice cream machine, it makes the batch, but I can't display it until 24 hours. That's when the ice cream actually gets the consistency that I need it for it to serve.
So with these natural ingredients, do you think that your ice cream makes a bigger impact here at Hattiesburg since your ice cream is a little bit more natural?
I hope so. Since it's a little bit more cleaner, I do hope that people are actually enjoying it more. I try to serve, simple ingredients, but I want you to, when you're eating the ice cream, be like, oh, that's definitely cotton candy. Like, you won't have to guess the flavor and you get the impact of the flavor, like a strong flavor.
Well, not only does Esmeralda also serve ice cream, but she also serves coffee as well. Was there any inspirations for the recipes for your coffee?
Yes. So I actually have your normal lattes, cappuccinos, the normal syrups, but I also have Latino inspired coffee. So I have the tres leches coffee, which is the 3 different milks with the espresso. I have the mazapan latte, which is the peanut candy with the milk and espresso. And then I also have the Duvalin latte, which is hazelnut, vanilla, and espresso and milk, of course. And then the last one's the horchata latte, which is the rice milk espresso. So.
Do you use Mexican coffee for your coffee as well?
Yes, I actually do. I get a coffee bean from Chiapas. I'm working with this local roaster out of Summerall, which he's great. And we work together, and that's the one that gets me the coffee bean from wherever I want. But we test run some, and Chiapas was the one that was the best.
Do you think that Mexican coffee is a little stronger than American coffee?
I do believe the quality of Mexican coffee is a little bit more specialized and more stronger than American coffee.
Now, with all the things that you have in store here, what is your favorite thing to make here?
So my favorite thing would honestly be the ice cream. Because when we make a lot of batches, I get lost in the time just goes by and I'm just there making it in my own little zone. But making the snacks for the customers was also good. I do have different types of snacks. Some are a little bit more complicated than others. But the things that are a little bit more complicated, that's the ones I like. Because once I start getting busy, I get in my zone. So, yeah.
Is there any recipe here that you would recommend for newcomers to come to the new shop?
Yes. If you are more if you want more ice cream type, then probably right now I put banana split if you like bananas. Or the cajeta, which is Mexican caramel, is also very popular. But if you're more of a snack person, then you should try the tosti elote, which is my favorite. So it's tostis is the type of chip with street corn. So the street corn is corn, mayonnaise, the cheese, and then the yellow cheese on top, which is great.
Now, can you tease us with a little bit of new things you might be adding to your menu?
Yes. So I'm hoping during the summer I can add ceviche, which is made out of either shrimp or fish. Obviously, it's going to be shrimp that I'm going to use. A lot of people, how they cook it is with the lime juice, but I'm probably going to just make it all the way cooked since it's a business. So I'm going to have the ceviche on top of the tostis. and dress it with hot sauce. So I'm kind of excited for that. And I'm kind of excited for a little bit more flavors. I'm trying to find more flavors like the ube ice cream that's coming soon as well.
Ooh. Well, my final question for you is going to be, how has your store impacted the Latino community here in Hattiesburg?
It has impacted a lot. I feel like I do have a lot of customers in the Latino community that do come and, come here. I try to talk to everybody, make an impact a little bit, be nice, and try to help them if they do need help and other stuff. But I think they see that there's more businesses and the people that have ideas. I'm hoping that they go and follow their idea and make it finally establish whatever they want to put.
Well, is there anything you want to say to the Latino community that might be hearing this podcast?
Yeah, if you think you can do it, you most possibly can. If you dream it, go ahead and follow your dream. I mean, you only have one life and you're not getting any younger. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for talking with us, Esmeralda. I'm Justin for the Burg Podcast.
In our next interview, Jacob Connor talks with the owner of a unique crystal store and how its services in yoga and wellness training have changed the Zen of Hattiesburg.
I'm Jacob Connor for the Burg Podcast. Today I'm interviewing Brandolyn Mangum Deer, known as BB by her customers. My guest is an LGBTQIA+ advocate, founder of the Dandelion Project, the founding vice president of the Spectrum Center, and the owner of the Red Jasper, the only metaphysical shop of Hattiesburg. She was recently recognized by Mississippi Capital City Pride for Women's History Month. BB, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's start with what inspired you to get into this business and how did you get started?
Well, I was a pastor for a lot of years, and I had the only queer church here in Hattiesburg for a long time. And while I was a pastor, I started working with Reiki healing energy. And so as I started studying and becoming a Reiki practitioner and master, I started working with crystals. And as I was doing all of that, I started having dreams and different things started happening. And so it just led me into this world. And I opened the Red Jasper while I had the church. So I had both of them going at the same time. So it was kind of cool.
And what is the mission or core philosophy behind your store?
We don't consider the Red Jasper a retail store. We consider the Red Jasper a healing space. This is a healing place where you can come in, find your true power, empower yourself, remember your own divine self, and find the healing that you need for yourself. Of course, we do sell things, but we do that so we can have the space so people can come in and find what they need as far as healing and things like that.
Absolutely. And what kind of services do you offer to your customers, like readings, classes, or healing sessions?
Right. I read oracle cards, and of course I'm a Reiki master. So I do healing sessions, and I read your cards. I also have some tarot readers. So we have tarot readings, oracle readings. We have yoga. We have yoga every Wednesday night, and then once a month we have a very special yoga. It's a Tibetan Buddhist a Tibetan Buddhist Lama that comes in and does a very a Buddhist yoga. So it's a really cool kind of yoga that we have once a month on the first Thursday of the month. And then the second Thursday of the month, which is tonight, we have Intro to Self-Hypnosis with Dr. Bonnie Miller. So she comes in and she teaches a class and teaches you how to get into a meditative state so that you can work out some things in your, in your psyche there. So it's a really great class. What else do we do? We have psychic fairs, which are great fun. We usually do those out at Jay's Tavern. We have tons of readers. We have tons of people selling different things. It's really fun. It's a fun time. We're doing that April 19th. Out at Jay's Tavern. What else do we do? I think that's it.
How do you get connected with fellow practitioners?
That's been a beautiful thing. Like Dr. Bonnie Miller walked into the shop one day and said, "I'm here to help," and that's how I met Bonnie, right? So Bonnie and I have worked real close together. since then. And different people, they usually come in. They usually come into the shop and they introduce themselves, and we all kind of navigate together. When you start living in this lifestyle, this type of healing energy and all the different things, people just they come together. It's like the universal law of attraction. It just works.
What's your perspective on the growing interest in metaphysical and spiritual practices in mainstream culture?
I'm watching this whole community. It's waking up. People are waking up to a new part of themselves, a new place inside of themselves. And I believe that, and I'll go to, I used to be a pastor, so I'll go to scripture for a second. I think it was Jesus that said it. It was, he said, if you don't worship God, the rocks will cry out, right? And so I feel like the metaphysical community and this whole, and I don't want to use the word trend, but, I'll use it for, lack of a better word. But I believe that the rocks are crying out, and the energy of the stones are waking up the divine nature within ourselves. And so I think that this is just the next evolution of human awakening. I think it started with religion, and it, it's moving on up into this new spiritual realm. And I believe that's what this is. I don't think it's a trend. I really think it's an evolution in human awakening and spirituality.
And are there any memorable moments or transformative experiences that you've had in your shop that have impacted you or your customers?
Absolutely. We've had many, many, many experiences in here that probably would, people would be like, did that really happen? And yes, it did. One day, we had a man walk in, and he was speaking in tongues, and we're sitting there going, and then he started, there was 4 of us in here, 3 of us in here. It was me and Lainey and Amy. And he was speaking in tongues, and then he started speaking to each one of us individually, and he was saying, he knew things about us, and he was I don't know if you would say prophesying but it really, we think he was an angel. We really think that he was not a human. It was kind of interesting. And and he spoke to each one of us individually. And right before we walked out, he turned around. He got to the door and he turned around and he said, "Who's Susan?" "That's my wife's name." And I went, "That's my wife." And he looked at me and hit the door and walked out. So that was one of the experiences that we had. And then I had a man walk in, and he said some things to me, and he became one of my greatest teachers. And he started doing energy work with me and training me in a deeper, more quantum type healing. So he just walked in out of nowhere and said some things, and it was one of those moments. So that's just a couple of things. Yeah.
So do you think that the store is attracting this energy, bringing these people in?
Yes, absolutely. And I believe that this place is it's alive. It's like a place where people come in and they walk in the door and they say, "Oh my gosh, it feels so good in here." And people feel the energy when they come in here. They feel the healing when they come in here. They feel the love when they come in here. It doesn't matter what their belief system is. We have people from all walks of life, every kind of spiritual practice you can imagine. And I had a dream years ago, and in my dream, this was when I was a pastor. I walked down this path, and my friend who was standing at the bottom of the path, he was a witch, and I walked up to him, and he handed me an almond, and he said, "BB, we're all the same on the inside." And I walked on down, and my pastor at the time said, "Hey, BB, there's someone from the UCC church that wants to give you a job." And I was like, "UCC church?" And he said, "BB, we're all the same on the inside." And then I walked into this building, and it was a gray brick building. And I walked into this building, and I couldn't see what was going on in my dream, but I knew what was going on. Like my spirit was telling me that there were people from all walks of life, every belief system, every race, every culture, every, and we were all in there teaching one another. We weren't trying to change one another. We were just, being ourselves, right? And as we walked out, we were all united and in one mind, And so it was a beautiful dream, and I really believe that place was this place. And so we try really, really hard to make sure that every single person feels safe and supported when they walk in, no matter what their religious belief or culture or anything. We want to make sure that they have a place where they can express their truth and be themselves and be authentic. That's the most important thing.
So there's not one specific spiritual practice that you're catering to. You're open to a wide range.
Absolutely.
And how do you cultivate that atmosphere in your store?
Well, I think that by allowing people to come in and tell me about themselves, tell me about your practice, tell me about your beliefs, and then we talk to one another, and we're teaching one another, and we're showing one another. I do not believe that you can fit the divine into one book or one practice or one culture or one belief system. I believe that grossly minimizes the truth of how vast the divine really is. And so we are really just, we're just spiritual mutts around here. You know what I mean? A little bit of this, a little bit of that. We don't put labels on what we are. And I think when we choose not to use a label, then it leaves it open. There's no hard lines and no absolutes that block people out. And.
And how do you stay connected to your own spiritual needs and practices amidst the demands of running a store?
Because the store's spiritual. Right? I mean, I tell people all the time to sit and work. I have the most magical job on earth, so, but I do have my own practice. I meditate every day. I do a walking meditation, and I spend time alone with myself and my spiritual, truth and things. So I do that every morning, and then, I come in and I do my TikTok where I do Reiki on my live stream every morning, and that's very spiritual and very empowering for me. So I have my practices, but this really isn't a job. This is a magical experience every single day. So it's not very hard.
And do you have any plans to expand your shop, like adding new services or opening additional locations?
Well, I have developed a healing modality called Akasha Nadi Healing, and so I do healing retreats. And so at this point, we are starting to develop healing conferences. So I'm doing that. So that'll be kind of in addition to what we're doing here. So I have that. But other than that, I'm not planning on opening any other stores at this moment.
And can you walk me through a typical day in your store?
A typical day. I'm not sure there's a typical day. We every day is so different and so magical. We come in, like I said, I come in, and the first thing we do is we say good morning, Red Jasper. We speak to the Red Jasper, and I come in and I do my Reiki sessions, and then we open the shop at 11. And, we just, each person that walks in is a totally different experience. Some people come in and they just need to talk. They just need somebody to give them some advice. And, being a pastor for 20 plus years, it's real, I love helping people. So people, sometimes people just come in and need some support. Sometimes they come in for a reading. Sometimes they come in for, it's a beautiful community. So. And that's a typical day. I don't know how to describe a typical day because all the days are different.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for talking with us. I'm Jacob Connor for the Burg Podcast.
In our first audio essay, Justin Suarez speaks about overcoming the hurdles of self-acceptance and his mission to accept his body image.
I sigh as I look into the mirror, glancing to the side to examine my body for those small insecurities. For as long as I can remember, I've struggled with how I perceive myself. No matter how much I changed, how many different hairstyles I've tried, or how much weight I've lost or gained, I've always found something wrong with the way I've looked in the mirror. I would obsess over details that no one else seemed to notice. My arms weren't toned enough. My face looked asymmetrical. My stomach wasn't flat enough. No amount of reassurance from others could silence the voice in my head telling me I wasn't enough. That's when I realized I was dealing with body dysmorphia, a condition that distorts your self-image, making imperfections seem unbearable, even when they are invisible to others. Growing up, my family had a significant influence on my body image. They, too, struggled with body dysmorphia, shaping the way I learned to view myself. I watched as they criticized their own reflections, constantly seeking ways to change their bodies to fit impossible standards. Whether they realized it or not, their struggles became mine. Every comment they made about me felt like rocks hitting the glass window of my self-worth. It was as if I had inherited their insecurities, absorbing every critique until they became my own inner dialogue. But I'm determined to break this cycle. Social media only made the struggle worse. I would scroll through Instagram, seeing influencers who seemed effortlessly perfect. Their skin was flawless, their bodies toned, their outfits always on trend. Every post was accompanied by some new beauty craze. Glass skin routines, waist trainers, detoxifying smoothies that would burn fat in just 1 month. Always another way to fix something. I found myself comparing my reflection to theirs, wondering why I didn't look like them, no matter how hard I tried. The constant exposure to these unattainable ideals made me feel like I was always falling short. I didn't realize at the time that most of these images were curated, filtered, and edited. The perfection I envied wasn't even real. Initially, I thought the solution was to change myself, to fix the things that made me feel insecure. I experimented with different diets, excessive exercise, and even edited my photos to create a version of myself that I thought was better. However, no matter how much I did, I was just never satisfied. There was always something else to change, something else to improve. The more I chased an impossible standard, the worse I felt about myself. I began to ask myself, what if my body wasn't the issue? What if the problem was the way I've been taught to see it? You see, society has conditioned us to believe that beauty looks a certain way, perfect, symmetrical, and flawless. The truth is, real beauty is so much more than that. I started following people who celebrated their natural bodies and gradually changed the way I spoke to myself. Instead of criticizing my reflection, I practiced gratitude for what my body could do, how it carried me through each day, and how it allowed me to experience life. It wasn't easy, and some days are still harder than others, but I've learned that self-love is a journey, not a destination. I hope people can understand that you are not defined by unrealistic beauty standards. Learning to love your natural body is about unlearning the harmful messages you've been told and embracing yourself for who you are. Because in the end, self-acceptance is not about perfection. It's about finding peace. The perfect you consists of your imperfections. I'm Justin Suarez of the Burg Podcast.
In our second audio essay, Jacob Connor explains how solo travel positively impacted his outlook on life and his self-image.
From a very young age, I had to learn how to be comfortable spending time alone. I often clung to friend groups and other opinions, hoping for that to satisfy me. But as I soon realized, we are alone more often than we would like. With that in mind, I began to understand the importance of enjoying my own company. In this life, the person I should trust most is myself. I started taking myself out to eat, even if no one was available to go out that night. I started taking myself to do things that I had always wanted to do, even if no one else was available. As I began to enjoy long walks by myself and meals spent in comforting solitude, I started to wonder how it would feel to be a solo traveler. As a child, I drew pictures of New York City, Paris, and London, always hoping to one day experience these cities for myself. Growing up, my dad worked for an airline, so we spent most of our free time jetting off across America. By the age of 10, I had likely been to every major airport in the country, but could I navigate them alone? And what would it feel like to be alone in a major city? I eventually grew up to travel with a medical study group to New York City. I flew there alone for the first time at the age of 15, where I spent my 16th birthday on Times Square. Though I journeyed there alone, the company of course provided shuttling and housing, taking large amounts of the stress of travel off my young and naive shoulders. This was it, my first taste of solo travel, and it was liberating. I later went on to college, where studying abroad became one of my top priorities. As I was accepted into my study abroad program, I immediately began to plan out my free weekends. I wanted to see as much of Europe as I could, regardless of who was coming with me. Though a buddy system was heavily recommended when traveling out of our host city of Strasbourg, I knew that I would do whatever it took to see the places that I had dreamed of, even if that meant doing it alone. Luckily, I made great friends on this trip, and with few conflicting interests, I did most of my travel abroad with buddies. However, I did take one weekend to go by myself on the train and Eurostar to London, where I stayed with a family friend over one of our free weekends. Having seen 7 countries in 3 months and traveling to one alone, I had gotten my second taste of solo travel. A culmination of these moments brought me to my most recent spring break trip. As I sat in my apartment in Hattiesburg, I knew that spring break would pass me by in a flash if I didn't begin to pursue something exciting. With my dad still working for an airline out of Denver, I knew I could fly on standby for free anywhere in the U.S. When a far-fetched Hawaii trip fell through, though, I thought of the city that had comforted me at the age of 15, New York City. Come Tuesday of the break, I had booked my hotel, bought my tickets to Broadway, and made dinner reservations for after the show. I worked with my father to arrange my flights, and even worked in a stop to Denver to visit with him briefly. I knew that I would have less than 24 hours to experience New York City once I had landed, and I planned on making the most of it. I knew that if I could just figure out the public transportation to get me into Manhattan and to my hotel, I could do absolutely anything that the city had to offer. I had to trust myself and my instincts. As I navigated the big city, making it to each and every location that I had imagined with little error, I couldn't help but feel extremely proud of myself. I knew that I could rely on myself and that I was doing something that was only for me. It was astounding to know that I could navigate a big city like that. The trip showed me that I can trust my instincts when it comes to navigating the world, even if I am flying solo. It is extremely important to be able to spend time with yourself. These trips taught me the value of independence and the importance of navigational skills and problem solving throughout my travels. Things don't always go to plan, and we don't always have the luxury of traveling with friends or loved ones that we can depend on in moments of crisis. So learning to navigate the world alone can teach extremely important lessons. Solo traveling has shown me so much about myself, but it has also allowed me to reflect on my life and the way in which I interact with the world around me. So book the trip and take the risk, even if you are flying solo. I'm Jacob Connor for the Burg Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Burg Podcast. This podcast is produced by students in Dr. Dave Davies' MCJ 344 podcasting class in the School of Media and Communication at the University of Southern Mississippi. The producer for this season's episodes is Salaudin Ahmed. Our music is from Upbeat, cover art by Madison Calkins and Greta Graves. We'll see you next week on the Burg Podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Williams.